I sent you the link.
Three, two, one. Boom. We are live, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us. We had to finish getting some stuff set up, so thank you for sticking around for a couple of minutes. But this is the Average Shades podcast, where we remind you all the pop culture news that happened this past week. As always, I am Jay Justin Ruiz.
And I'm Jay, Jeremy Francois.
So today is May 9th. May 9th of the year of our Lord 2023. I have to get better at like saying the dates. I feel like I always forget.
You can choose to say numbers, or you can say there's a couple things you can say. But before we continue, I want to say May the 4th be with everyone, even though we didn't get to record that time. We still got to say it because we're nerds. We got to do it. May the 4th be with you for all those uh, in tune with the Force.
Yeah,
Um, Maybe.
good plug, honestly, because we actually, even though we didn't record on the 4th, we dropped an episode on the 4th, and there was some Star Wars talk in that. So not only may the 4th be with you, but Revenge of the 5th as well. So
Facts. It's not Cinco de Mayo anymore.
it is not. So jumping into this week's docket, we have a returning uh, I don't want to say issue, but it's a returning subject matter. So last week we spoke about the Writers Guild strike and that it's going to be hitting TV and movies pretty hard. I'm sure everyone who's like plugged into TV, movies, pop culture news, you've been seeing all of the things that have been stalled because of the strike that's going on right now. So
The list is growing too.
yeah, the list is growing day by day. So I found an article off of I'm not IMDb, off of IGN, and here are some of the um, biggest properties that are being affected right now. So HBO Max's A Night of Seven Kingdoms, The Hedge Knight. Oh, I'm sorry, Max, as they will be rebranded soon. Um, Abbott Elementary, the Emmy like winning show that has been picking up steam, halted. Big
Yeah.
Mouth going into their eighth and final season, halted. Marvel's Blade, which has been in development for what seems like 10 years now, halted. Cobra Kai, I'm pretty sure this was their final season as well,
I believe
and
so, yeah.
it's been halted. Daredevil Born Again, halted. Um,
Stranger
Evil,
Things.
Stranger Things, Evil, which is a show on Paramount Plus,
Mm.
Hacks on HBO Max. Their season 3 is halted due to the strike. We have for the late night talk shows, we have Jimmy Kimmel, and I think we actually listed these last time too, but
We listed it last week. Yeah.
just as a refresher, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, and Late Night with Seth Meyers. All of those are halted. So if you're a late night TV buff, get ready for reruns. HBO is also ceasing live production on Real Time with Bill Maher and Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. And Comedy Central's Daily Show is going on hiatus as well. So we're talking about all like every type of funny news related thing gone. Severance, which is a Apple TV show, it shut down yesterday. Stranger Things has been delayed. Saturday Night Live has been delayed, which is crazy to think of. But they'll be airing repeats for however long. Wonder Man, the Disney Plus Marvel show, has been delayed. Yellow Jackets, which they were about to go into season 3, and it's been getting a lot of great press, delayed. So the list, like we said before, is going to continue to grow day by day. I've even seen a bunch of writers kind of speaking out and like sharing what they actually make monthly because and this is what the writer strike is about. It's about getting paid fair wages. They're negotiating a pay raise. They had been doing it for months, and then negotiations ceased, so the guild has gone on strike. But I've seen a couple of different writers reaching out, and like for someone who's been in the industry 20 plus years, I saw a writer that had written for King of Queens, King of the Hill, um, oh my god, another sitcom, and some other stuff. But he had been in the industry for about 25 years, and he shared what he made off of royalties. So remember, while they're not working, they're getting paid royalty checks for shows that they have worked on. Checks of like $8 sometimes. He was also a writer for Lois and Clark, and
Mm,
he's getting decent money from that. But there was one show that had got sold to like a streaming service. So once that happens, your royalties get cut as well. So it was like
yeah.
$8 or $9 that he was making off of that show. Lo and behold, at the end of a month, his checks for a month just hit a little over $1,000.
Yeah,
So
that's wild because it also goes back to companies that follow the same, I guess, philosophy of not sharing their numbers. Netflix doesn't really share their numbers, so I'm sure that takes into account of like what's worth it to them because back before streaming you had the chant like actual cable TV. You had all these shows of reruns. So like
mhm,
if you're just looking at actors, they get bank from these reruns. Let's just talk about Friends. They always got those. But then now you have it on Netflix, right? They're not making that much coming from Netflix. But yeah, everyone knows that it's there. That's there's still money coming from that. But then now look at the writers. Now the writers aren't making money. And one of my friends, she's one of my coworkers at work. She's an actor. She's an actress as well, and she's part of the guild. And it's just like, yo, they're not like these people are not making that much money. And there's a lot of random negotiations with AI and stuff like that. Like, what if AI decided to make something? uh, do the writers, if the writers start taking from that AI's idea, do they get the credit? And they're just like not negotiating that part, which is weird.
mhm,
Like it's crazy how things are. It just, not to like go off a tangent, but just seems like the world is just starting to turn little, is tilting
yeah.
because so many crazy things are happening, and just with this one thing here, this is where people are saying we need the writers. They deserve a pay bump. I don't know how much. I'm not a smarty pants when it comes to getting these pay bumps, but definitely give them what they deserve. It kind of reminds me of writers for comic books. The guy, the guy who created Winter Soldier. Yes, he did not create Bucky Barnes, but he created Winter Soldier. Got only I think $4,000 or $5,000 from the Winter Soldier movie. That's it. But he created that. The only problem here is that character belongs to Marvel.
Yeah.
So it gets into the weeds, which is wild.
Yeah, you figure like, sometimes especially with writing or screenwriting especially, you give birth to these things and you kind of have to like let it go. That's it. You have no more rights to it. With writing, it's a little different. Typically, you see residuals and royalties for a number of years, but in this ever changing world of how we consume media, you know that lump sum that you would get month over month gets chopped up so much because it's not like you said before. It's not a show that runs on a network anymore. You know,
Hmm.
at that point when it was still in production, you're making all this money, or you're making a better amount of money. Once it goes into syndication, shows end. You're getting those royalty checks month over month. But then if other networks buy it, now the pie is getting split even more. Now we're talking about adding streaming into the mix. That pie slice is going to be smaller than the kindergarten one that you saw, back at school. Like these things will become such a thin margin.
I thought of the random pizza slice they gave you. I'm like, no one wants that thin slice. Give me my whole slice.
So these margins become so razor thin that it sucks, and it takes away because $1,000 a month for a established Hollywood writer that has been in the industry 25 years. The nature of the beast with writing is like you will have a lull where you're not working. Like that's just how it is. Shows take breaks, shows end. Like it
Hmm.
is what it is. you know. So those
Yeah.
months when you're not receiving that massive paycheck, you're really you're really kind of on a grind to just throw stuff out there. So, it's sad to see, and hopefully, the Writers Guild makes some inway. I mean, they're going to have to, because
Yeah.
there's no way this is gonna last super long, especially now.
Yeah. This kind of ties into real world news. I just kind of want to touch on it because it kind of comes along with this too. I would say the little people, that includes us, me and you, and our listeners, hopefully others. This goes into what Bernie Sanders is trying to do, is raise the minimum wage from, what was
Yes,
it, whatever the
from
minimum wage is
the
now,
federal
to
system.
$17.
Yeah, it was
Well,
seven
it's like
dollars and a couple and cents.
something, yeah, to 17. And I'm like, that's not like, that's it. Okay, again, I'm not a smarty pants when it comes to the treasury of the government, but it should be doable. Like, people need to be able to live. Like, forget New York City. We need to be able to live in general. Like, all this money in the higher ups. Again, like, you got people like, okay, now I'm just kind of swinging it back to the Writers Guild, the writer strike. You got people like Bob Iger, who's making bank from. Again, I know he does stuff, but in my mind, as a lowly human, he just sits around and does nothing.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I see these people up there. They're just sitting around doing nothing, making decisions. But the actual creators are at the bottom. The writers, the people that are incubating these ideas, are not. They're not getting what they're owed.
Yeah, and
And
it.
as my guy from Doctor Strange one, I forget his name, Mordo, the bill
Mhm.
always comes due.
Yeah, and it's true. The check just hit the table. Who's gonna pay for it, right? Like it sucks, but you're absolutely right. Those, the executives making the decisions are the ones walking away with the golden parachutes when things fail, and while things are going great, it's millions upon millions of dollars. Where then the people at the lowest rung barely have enough to keep going. Yeah, just as
Yeah,
a little fun fact, and when we move on from this, when I was in high school and I started working, New York State's minimum wage was $7 and like 50 something cents.
jeez.
Yeah, so that was what, we're out of college 8 years now. So we're talking
Yeah,
15
more
years
than
ago.
yeah.
15 years ago, New York's minimum wage was, let's call it 750. That means federal the federal minimum wage was
It's behind.
probably what, $5. Like, so now the fact that 15 years fast forward, it's $7 and something cents. we you know we've had, uh I forgot what it's called before recessions, but we've had like a minor mini recession. During that, we've had a global pandemic. We've seen inflation go up. The house
Yep,
market has been
a lot has
terrible.
happened.
Like,
Hmm.
and you're telling me federal minimum wage is $7? And that goes to show, like, I remember reading about the, like, interns and stuff that worked at the UN. Like, they were living in tents, like, because they were unpaid or not paid enough. Like, we're
Jeez.
talking about the future of our country, of our world. And that's on a whole other scale. But the people that deliver us the laughs, the tears, the good moments that we cling on to, they are just as important as the actors that portray what they've written. So there should be compensation. The people
Yeah,
behind it keep it going. So now what we're gonna see in the screeching halt is, we need to care about them more.
yeah. Oh, 100%. We saw this back in 2007,
Yeah.
2008.
Yep.
I remember Heroes was, like, again, Heroes season one was, whew, one of the best TV shows out there. Writer strike happened and it was cut short that season, and it was just draga, like, just horrible.
So,
So,
talking about waiting a long time for things to change,
word.
Beetlejuice 2. I know that was a heck of a
Beetlejuice
segue.
2.
Beetlejuice
Well,
2
yeah, a writer
had,
did create that. So,
well, yes. Beetlejuice 2 has finally set a release date. It will officially release in theaters September 6th, 2024. So, just over a year from now. Um, but however, this is one of the things. It was reported that it could be in trouble because of the Writers Guild. It could be seeing some slowdowns with the strike.
Ooh, that also reminds me, not to cut you off, but Transformers 2 was another thing. They wrote that whole movie in like 2 days.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it was just written in 2 days, and it was just horrible. But
yeah.
anyway, I hope Peter just doesn't get the same treatment.
Oh, let's hope not. So Warner Brothers announced it. With everything going on, they're actually saying that they're looking closer to like late 2024, early 2025, just in case they get hit with these delays. In addition to Michael Keaton reprising his role as Beetlejuice, we'll see Jenna Ortega of Wednesday fame coming in as the daughter of Winona Ryder's Lydia from the original. And Deadline also reported that Justin Theroux will be joining the cast in a undisclosed role. So
Mm.
uh, keep an eye out for that. It's gonna be fun. And on
Yeah,
top of that, we
let's
have
just keep your fingers crossed for Beetlejuice 2. Even though we hate sequels and reboots, I'm actually pretty, I want this.
the thing that allows me to get excited is that Michael Keaton's returning, and
Yeah, he has to.
Tim Burton is directing.
Yeah, that's
So
why I'm all for it.
yeah, those things are what has been like bubbling up the excitement. But talking about signing off on your own creations,
Mm.
One Piece author creator Ichiro
Oda.
Oda has tweeted out again. We've been seeing, the rise in Twitter. We've been talking about it the last couple of weeks. How news has been breaking through Twitter again, at like a higher rate than during its apocalypse.
It's weird.
Um,
Yeah, that was perfect.
Oda came out and released a tweet saying that he's been working with the studio Tomorrow Studios, which is the one
Hmm.
making the series, and Netflix. They've been working together some time, and they've been hard at work. But he said,
Do you have the actual
"Yes, I have the
parchment?
actual post right here. We've been
Okay,
hard at work this entire time, and
parchment.
now each and every entity involved is working in sync. We are finally here. Considering my expected lifespan, I believe that this is the last chance to bring One Piece to the entire world." So,
It's crazy for him to say that because it's like One Piece is already a global phenomenon,
yeah.
but it is that one final push to get the normies involved. And I don't say that with like any negativity. I mean people that just don't know anime or don't know One Piece or don't care to know One Piece. Like those 8 episodes, if Netflix goes in this beautiful hack and slash of cancellation, hopefully that's the thing that's like, oh, I really like the show. Let me
Hmm.
go actually watch the anime. Kind of like Cowboy Bebop in a sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of
It,
people that watch Cowboy Bebop really liked it, which I've heard, and then watch the anime.
yeah, it'll bring people to the original. Same thing with the remake of Trigun. It did really well, and I have to imagine people were like, "Okay, what's the source?" And they go back to maybe not the manga, but the original
No.
anime. So the
So
last the
yeah,
last
but
piece coming from this post, since then, he's quoting, since 2016, which is when they officially agreed to do this. Since then, Netflix has committed enormous resources to the production. It was announced that the show will launch in 2023, but they've promised that we won't launch until I'm satisfied. The entire cast and crew, spanning various countries, are brimming with the love for One Piece. They're burning with passion, and I've reminded everyone. So Oda has kind of put his foot down. I'm happy that he's addressing this to the fans, being like, "Hey, this is happening only when I'm satisfied with how it's going to be portrayed." And
and
in this world, I feel like, and in this time with all these different things coming out, the perfect thing to like put our nerves at ease, right?
mhm. Yeah, this kind of again, this is a good docket here because it kind of ties back to the writer's strike as well. You got someone like Oda, and then also Mark Miller, who is famous for a lot of his comic books. He's if you remember, Mark Miller sold all his he called it the Millerverse, all his stuff to Netflix. But you know who's making that bank? Mark Miller. It's one of those things where a lot of writers are really trying to get into the indie world and just make their own way and just create their worlds. Because the one thing, and I've said it once before, or maybe multiple times in the show, people that are creatives, create your stuff and don't sell out. Keep doing the thing because there's going to be a niche population that's going to dig your work and it's going to blow up. Someone's going to be like, wow, this guy is doing this thing. Webtoons is a good place to put your work.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of stuff from Webtoons has gone onto Crunchyroll and they're just making a lot of headway. And those writers get to keep all that. And I don't say money in a bad way, like they're going to be rich, but they get to keep what it's worth. So Oda, who's on the interwebs, he's also by the another pseudonym Goda, God God Oda, but you know that's just a little pun for the internet. But he's created such a great world. I can gush about One Piece all the time, but just a person of himself. Forget One Piece. He has a goal and he's really pushing the envelope here. He doesn't even have to. He could have said, "No, I don't want this to be a life thing." But this is he has so much faith in this. When I saw I keep calling it the parchment because it looks like a
Yeah.
parchment. But when I saw his post, I was like, again, I'm cautiously optimistic about this series. Again, I'm only gonna watch it because it's One Piece. Because I
Mm-hmm.
watch everything One Piece. I don't care if it's non-canon. I don't care if it's just a side thing. I've literally watched everything One Piece. You can tell me anything, and like I probably didn't play like 2 or 3 games, but I've watched everything, even the 3D one, which was horrible. But I'm gonna watch it because he was behind this, just like his last couple of movies. He was behind this, and if it's trash, it's trash. But I'm still gonna support it. It doesn't hurt the canon, and that's what I love about the adaptation.
And I think that's the good part, right? Like it doesn't hurt the canon. It doesn't soil the main thing that you love. Um, Speaking of hurting the canon,
Mm,
Indiana Jones, not necessarily the original three, but I know Crystal Skull kind of rubs people the wrong way. Indiana
yeah.
Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark is coming back into the theaters. I am super hyped because we will get into this in the weekly wrap later, but
Ooh.
I watched the OG Indiana Joneses this past weekend.
And how long? So I wanted to ask how long is it in theaters?
So it comes out. I think it's only for a couple of days. It's for
Ah,
2 days. So it comes out
ah,
June 4th and June 7th. Those are the only 2 days it'll be back
June
in
4th
theaters.
and June
It
7th.
will be
That's when Spider-Man comes out that weekend.
so it AMC, Cinemark, and Regal theaters will be participating. Um, so just look it up and see. It'll be at your local theater. But Raiders is coming. Like I just want to celebrate that for a moment. Like we had spoken about last week. You seeing was it Revenge? Not Return of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi, yes.
Yeah, you see Return of the Jedi in the theaters. This is such a massive thing because one, it helps movie theaters, right? Like this is a thing that we need to continue to do. We need to continue to help movie theaters. They're not out of the they're not out of the dark yet. Like we still need to help them kind of bolster back up. But seeing a classic, a cinematic classic in the theaters is such a cool feeling. So
Well, yeah, not just like the main ones. I think of like theaters like Angelica, like those theaters.
yeah.
Like those do need help. I wish they did more of that as well. Cause then like let's say I can't see the ticket at AMC.
Mm-hmm.
I can go to places like those like I guess those I don't want to say like the hipster
Well,
theaters
they're the
that people
indie theaters,
but
and you need
the
to
indie
remember those theaters also more likely have stuff like this happening more often because
yes, exactly.
they don't have 15 theaters for you to go sit down and watch whatever. They might have like three, so they'll have one constantly going and the other two maybe it's the top movies, and then on the weekends they have I remember a theater by my house when I lived in Yonkers. They used to do silver screen uh,
Oh,
things like every month. So one weekend in the month, you could go and see like a classic black and white film, like Casablanca or something like that, a Marilyn Monroe movie, and you could go watch it in the theater. You know, there was only a couple of showings, but you know, it's stuff like that where you don't get that a lot, and these smaller theaters will have it more likely than a bigger AMC, a bigger Regal, just because they don't have the space to give because they are constantly on that huge, you know, whatever's in the now. Um, but but yeah, this is something where we could go, we could support theaters and see a really cool movie on top of that. Just as a sidebar, Raiders, Temple of the Doom, Last Crusade, and Crystal Skull will all be getting individual 4K releases coming up. So if you guys are into the movie collecting, keep an eye out for that. Um, yeah, and then this is also fun because you know clearly this is a marketing thing leading up to June 30th, which will be Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Harrison Ford's last turn at the titular indie character. So it's coming at a great time.
it's crazy how it was first talked about, doing a reboot of the whole franchise, and he's still coming back for one last ride.
Yeah,
I
and
love it.
I'm extremely curious to see how it goes. Because I want he's gonna pass the hat off, right? But it's like I want to know to who.
If it's part of your Justin's verse where Shia LaBeouf shows up at the end credit scene,
I would absolutely stroke out in the middle of the theater if Shia LaBeouf came back and Indy gave him the hat. I would lose my mind. Um, I think it was already confirmed that he won't be in the movie, and they did confirm that they will like nod to where he is in the universe, like what
Mm,
happened to him or what's going on with him. So I'm gonna
yeah.
have to settle with that. Now talking about movies from that depict life in 1930s and World War II, right?
Yes.
Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer got a new trailer that's actually pretty long. It's over 3 minutes.
I was a little upset when I saw that it was that long. I watched it because I was in theater,
You
so
watched
I
it?
thought it was
Oh,
like,
you
oh, it's the
had
hot.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I had to. But I was watching and thinking it was the same one that I kept playing, and
Yeah.
I was like, no, this is something new. I was like, why are you showing me this? But then again, it's like, oop, did I just
I don't know
just
what
wake up
happened, but
Siri?
Siri felt the need to chime in there.
um, but yeah, I even though I know how history turns out, I didn't need to see all these visuals. But if you want to surprise the fans with what we saw, which isn't something that again
Well,
WB needs to figure out. Stop doing this.
well, um, who knows? Like with Christopher Nolan, who knows? Because what if there's like a huge twist at the end and like it goes the other way that like you know history did not really happen. But anyway, um,
Yeah, but they did that already with Amazon. We don't need that again. Man in High Castle.
just saying, like I think it would
I
be fun.
guess
Like
if aliens showed up, I
like
guess
what if this guy
Bruce Wayne,
no, let's be
cop
real
from
here,
Inception.
Jay. No.
Oh, I thought you meant like there'll be like a
Um
inter universe, a Nolan verse.
oh my goodness, what is his name? The guy from all the Lincoln commercials. All right, all
Oh,
right, all
I
right.
yeah,
From
yeah.
Interstellar,
Matthew McConaughey's
Matthew
character. Yeah,
McConaughey. Yeah, what if his character comes back, right? What if his character, you know, the freaking
from the fourth dimension.
yeah, the ship comes in and lands there and everyone's like, "Whoa," you know. Anyway,
That you said something real here, and I'm here giving you Bruce Wayne.
anyway, what
That was
we
a little more grounded.
what we did see in this very lengthy trailer is some new characters that have been confirmed. So we got Matt Damon make an appearance as Major General Leslie Groves, and then we also got Tom Conti as Albert Einstein. So this was a big deal because now we're starting to see this star-studded cast be fleshed out. There's still people that like we don't know what they're gonna be yet, but you know we got to see some more people in this trailer. We got to see Emily Blunt, Matt Damon, Robert Downey Jr., Florence. I always mess up her last name.
Pew.
Pugh. I always want to say Poe. Florence Pugh, Rami Malek, And
At least you're not saying pug.
yeah, I guess. And like I said, there's more. So we have David 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 Dasmalchian.
I was gonna say household.
Dasmalchian, right? He joined the cast as in an unknown role, and Josh Peck joined as a scientist. So
I see that.
there's so many people going around here, and plus, the titular character Oppenheimer is played by Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
Star-studded. I mean, Christopher Nolan has worked with a bunch of stars before. I'm still waiting
He does.
for.
He always does star studded, but then they're like the star studded can always jump the line between those blockbuster movies, or he can just do indie
Yeah,
movies.
yeah.
They
You
don't
can
have. They're not.
you could have like
They can do it.
an Ocean's 11 or a Wes Anderson movie, or you can have Valentine's Day and movie 43. Like
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
could go so bad or so good. Um,
Yeah. And I wasn't mad at it. I was just like, all right, you're gonna show Albert Einstein. That's like freaking doing Gal Gadot in Shazam. Like, why we could have just saved that? Like, why can't I just sit in the theater? I'm like, just recognize the hair, the mustache, and I'm like, oh, that's Einstein.
what I'm a little upset at is I don't know if you saw the Verizon commercials where Paul Giamatti was Albert Einstein. I feel like he
Oh
should
yeah,
have
yeah.
been the Albert Einstein here because he did such a
That's
good
why you're.
job. Yeah, he did such a good job.
Oh, you're so. You're an idiot.
So,
I cannot see Paul. Well, I know Paul Giamatti's an A-list actor, but in that costume, no.
well, he played like a funnier Einstein in those commercials,
I
right?
couldn't see. I
But
couldn't
I
see
could
it.
totally see it. If he can be a Russian
That'd be
mobster
so.
in a rhino suit, in a big mechanical cyborg rhino suit, I think he can
In a
be Albert
Sony movie,
Einstein.
I guess.
So,
That would be that's the it connects both worlds. Verizon and Oppenheimer are
exact
one and the same.
boom. So, speaking of one of the same, um, so what is her name? Elizabeth Olsen. Elizabeth
Yes.
Olsen played Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch in the MCU. So this was something that came out. This was from a interview that Elizabeth Olsen did, and I felt like it was super necessary to talk about just for a moment. This is from an interview she did with Vanity Fair, and this made so much sense to me. So
Hmm.
apparently, when she was filming Doctor Strange 2, the writers weren't able to watch WandaVision before finishing the movie. It wasn't
Yeah, so
done.
I saw that blurb, but my question to that is because I didn't read the article. Were they not allowed to watch, or weren't they able to
They
watch?
weren't able to. It wasn't done. It wasn't there.
Okay,
It literally was not available to them so that they can know what was
got it,
happening.
got it.
So
Okay, that makes sense to me.
because of this, that's why we have such a difference in tone with Scarlet Witch from WandaVision and Scarlet Witch from uh, Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
So
I'm
so
wondering if they had the idea, like, were they given this information, like, hey, she just lost her kids, like, go run with that.
yeah, I guess that's exactly what it is. So I mean, she clearly was able to tell them some stuff and like let them know, but it literally wasn't done, so there was no way for them to do anything. So in the Vanity Fair article interview, she said it's a similar arc in Multiverse of Madness than it is in WandaVision. There could be parallel stories being told there dealing with grief and loss. I proposed that to the writers of Multiverse, and I said, "Do you know what we're doing in WandaVision? Have you seen it?" And they said no because it wasn't finished yet. So I guess like editing and stuff hadn't been finished. So she said that she had to play it differently. So even though she was basically working with the same character and the same character arc, the same story basically, like it
Yeah.
is one through line,
Hmm.
they actually told her to play the character differently. So
Yeah.
she had to attack the
Yeah,
same
and
themes.
she played with the same kid actors too. So it's like
Yeah.
there were, it would be, I don't want to say confusing, but like to get into that headspace again, but to play it differently.
Yeah, like you have to imagine like where she had this like at the end of it, she had this like emotional awakening, right? Like she went through this
Mhm.
crazy roller coaster of emotions. Like there was rage, there was denial, and then at the end there was very much this kind of acceptance of what her destiny was, and we got to see her
Yeah.
playing around with the book at the end. I forgot the name of the book.
Mhm.
So we get to see her, and we're like, oh snap, she's gonna go crazy. And then
Mhm.
when we see her in Multiverse of Madness, it's she's still not over that grief, and there's a lot of anger. There's not so much like that calmness that we saw at the end of
It's a weird
WandaVision.
shift, yeah, and that seems like someone dropped the ball. And I don't want, I hate to have to say this, but with Feige superseeing all this,
Mm-hmm.
superseeing, overseeing, wow, overseeing all this, superseeing. You would think that there would be this through line because this is all part. It is the main
Yeah.
continuity, like and that's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of WandaVision. Looking at it now backwards,
Mm-hmm.
because it teased the House of M for so long to only let us down at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You bring back actors like Evan Peters to play like that was such a tease to do
Yeah.
all that, and then just to be like, oh no, we're just playing around. Like whose decision was to do that? Was it Kevin Feige, or like, because I know he didn't care about the TV shows as much um back when there was the Netflix and
Yeah.
Shield. He didn't care, but it's like these are now, they are part of the MCUs. Like, why are you not focused that? Again, I don't know, I'm not behind the seat
Mm-hmm.
in this, but I do agree there is that shift in tone where it's like, oh no, she's actually angry. She in multiverse, she's like, I'm actually angry, I want my kids, which honestly she was grieving more for Vision, and
Yeah.
she accepted that. So if you can accept Vision's death, you should have accepted, in tandem accepted, these weren't your kids. Well, they are, but they weren't real
Yeah, and it's like
to a certain extent.
at the end of WandaVision, her hearing the kids call out, right? It's her tapping into the multiverse for the first time, quote unquote, and it gives her that like driving force to like still look for them. But yeah, it's to your point, it's a little weird because she's accepted a lot of things. So now, why is there anger, and like, why wouldn't she think about the whole theme of like ripping the kids away from their version of their mother? So she gets clouded by all this anger, and to her point, she said she had to attack these themes from a different angle, because of whatever crew and creatives were working on the film. So I get it, and I actually like how she attacked it in that way. But yeah,
Yeah,
it does make you think like who's really calling the shots here, because the TV shows are a whole different department, whole different set of creatives. They're not directly involved with Kevin Feige, and I'm sure he's like overseeing stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not. I can't imagine he's too focused on it because he has all the other movies to worry about. So like this is just something that he I'm sure it's like he gets a piece of paper and he signs off on it and he's like, all right, this sounds good, and go. You know, because
yeah.
that's also
So
has how it has to be for the movies, right? That's how we get flops. Like he can't be in the director's chair telling everyone what to do. He can only make decisions and sign off and then just tackle it after the fact. So,
yeah,
but talking about making a decision that I think has paid off, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has finally hit theaters, and to much acclaim. Um, they're being it's being touted as one of the best MCU movies, one of the best trilogies, not only in the MCU but in like
and then superheroes.
in superheroes and like as a movie. Um, there's a bunch of articles being written about it. There's things of like I remember IGN had written a whole thing talking about how Volume 3 was first and foremost a James Gunn movie and then an MCU movie, which is fantastic. Things
That's
like
how all movies should be.
exactly like things like clearly he didn't have to compromise on anything. It was like, he's proved himself and it's like, no, this is how it's going to go and we'll make it fit, but we're going to make it fit how I want. And
Mhm.
we saw things
And
like
you can
that.
watch this movie without having to watch a lot of the movies. Like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously this comes in tandem with Infinity War and Endgame,
Yeah.
but it's like, you you probably don't need to watch one and two. If you're looking at it alone, you probably
Yeah,
don't. You watch Infinity War, watch Endgame, and then watch this, and it's like that in itself is a trilogy.
and you get it. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, and yeah, and it's stuff where like we saw that with Thor Ragnarok. That's a Taika movie. That's a Taika Waititi movie first and foremost
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
Thor had been mishandled. So they were like, you know what, do what you can to resurrect this thing. Then when you get Love and Thunder, that's an MCU movie. They
Yeah,
pushed him into a box and they didn't let him get out. So
yeah,
with I still haven't seen it yet, but I'm extremely happy to hear that it's his movie first and foremost. It's his creativity. It's his passion coming across on the screen, delivering us these characters that we know and love,
mm,
as well as fitting into the MCU as a bigger picture. So you did see this past weekend.
yes, yeah.
Now, do you want to talk about it now, or do you want to get into it at the weekly wrap?
I'll talk about it in the wrap because
Okay.
I want to save that for that. You know.
Okay. So then, just as a tease, before we get into the nitty gritty in the wrap, what'd you think about it?
No, I thought it was great. To call, I think as a trilogy, I don't have any preference on like which it's better than the Dark Knight trilogy or the Captain America trilogy or the Iron Man trilogy. I think it is a perfect trilogy. Like when it
Okay.
comes to trilogies, it's one of the few that will land in the perfect trilogy. Um, it my only downside, the only thing I didn't like about it, and me and my friend made a point to it, the music. And I'm talking about the original score,
Oh,
not the
not the
music that's
soundtrack.
like
Okay.
not the soundtrack. Like Tyler Bates, if anyone knows who he is, he did one and two, volume one and two.
Mm-hmm.
You when you it's like again, and you know me, and we've said this many times. You know I nitpick on this. When you hear Star Wars, you hear Harry Potter, you know the soundtrack is to those characters. You know
Yeah.
Captain America, you know even the Avengers theme. I know the Guardians themes that was barely in the movie.
Mm,
There's a point that Rocket does some cool thing. That's the only time they play it, and I was like, and I was hyped. I was like, oh, this is
mm-hmm.
gonna be thing. But I was like, that was it. I felt myself get hyped, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, that's.
And they just let it
But
go.
and it wasn't Tyler Bates who did this
Mm-hmm.
score. So I was just like, I thought because the thing in my head is that when you make music for Marvel or for these big companies, they own the rights to that, so you
Yeah.
can retool it into your work. It's kind of like Rogue One. Like Rogue One didn't have the main Star Wars, the John Williams stuff, but you
Mm-hmm.
still felt his presence
Yeah.
throughout
Yeah.
Rogue
They
One. If
reworked
that
it
makes sense.
where possible, right?
Exactly. So that's why I was like, that's the thing that threw me. I was waiting for that sound, but the movie works. It hits the ground running. It does its thing. But that's all I'm gonna say. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll talk more about it
Yeah. I
in the
mean, to that they should have just brought back renowned movie composer Kendrick Lamar like they had for Black Panther.
bro. That would have been a different movie.
So sticking with Marvel here, this one I'm actually like I saw this come across like my phone today, and
Oh yeah,
I got very hyped for it. Like,
I got hyped. I wouldn't consume it, but I
oh,
got
I'm
hyped.
totally gonna eat this thing. I
It's
am
gonna go right through you, bro. Tell the
totally.
peoples.
I'm fine about
Tell
it.
the
I'm
fans.
fine with it too. So Burger King has officially debuted a red and black burger to celebrate Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So it's exactly what you think it is. It's a Whopper. Um, it's the bun is completely red. Like there's a lot of food dye in this, and it has black sesame seeds. So the reason why I'm hyped for this is because I love the Whopper. I prefer the Whopper over the Big Mac any day. But
Yeah, it's called Burger King. But anyway.
but this isn't the first colored burger. As weird as that
Yeah, remember
sounds.
the Black Burger from McDonald's?
So the black burger was only in Japan, I
Japan.
believe. So
It was Japan.
we don't get this cool fun stuff really. Give me it. I saw this and I was like, "Yo, as soon as this thing drops, I'm going to get it." And what I'm happy
I'm
about
sure if I get my hands on it, I would.
And what I'm happy about is it's nationwide. It's going to be nationwide all over North America. So it's not like I have to fly somewhere to go get this burger. I can go to the Burger King that's down the street. And I'm going to as soon as it drops. I'm going to get it. I'm going to
Yo,
get
if
the.
there's a line like there was for Popeyes, I'm gonna laugh.
Dude, I feel like it's small enough where like people aren't going to go crazy. But I mean, who knows, right? It also comes with I think it's a regular paper cup. I don't think it's like
A collectible.
a collectible cup or whatever, but it is themed after Miles Morales. It's all black with just the eyes, and it says Spider-Man across the Spider-Verse. Um, so, and apparently, it's like a customizable like menu that they're gonna have for the Spider-Verse. Like it's gonna have. They say that it's like their Spider-Verse menu items. So on top of having the Whopper, they're gonna have a sundae in the summer. Um, so it's soft serve ice cream topped with red and black chocolate popping candies. That's a weird one. And I can't. There's other stuff. It says that there's gonna be menu offerings and menu items, but it doesn't say anything else about it. Um, but dude, I'm so about this. I felt the need to share this with everyone. Please go out and consume one of these. Um,
Just like poop out, just red poop.
I mean, that's probably gonna happen, but it's to me, somebody who loves the Whopper, is worth it. So, sticking with more, I guess, relevant Spider-Man news. Um,
Jumping into vid games.
before we actually get there, let me do an honorable mention
Oh,
because we do typically talk about how
oh yeah.
crappy
Sorry,
Marvel movie posters are.
I
So,
jumped into it ahead.
Marvel movie posters are, for lack
MCU.
of a better word, MCU, for lack of better words, uninspired.
Yes.
Now, we know that this is an MCU. Technically, it does fit in. It is like Spider Verse. It's like encompassing everything, so you can say that it's in the MCU. But it's not a direct MCU property. It is still under Sony. Across the Spider Verse has a new poster that got revealed, and why it's cool. I encourage people to go check it out. Is it's the left half of the poster close up on Miles. You see his face, you see like the reflection in his eyes, and then behind him you see different Spider-Man, but the reflection is what matters, right? And I believe Gwen is right next to him. Why this is cool is that it seems like it's a massive homage to the Spider-Man 2 poster, from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the one that had I guess the left third with Spider-Man, Mary Jane. In the reflection, you got to see Doc Ock, and the rest of it is like the skyline. Very nice orange tone to the whole thing. Um, but yeah, it seems like it's paying homage to Spider-Man 2. And with it being a sequel, I just felt like that was fun. And like I said, we've ragged on Marvel before for having crappy posters. So for this one to be very cool and almost like this is a movie poster I would actually like to have like on a background,
Like
like
on your wall,
yeah, like on a
like
computer
right there.
wallpaper or even just on my wall. It's one that's I find comic book esque as well as like artsy. So I would love to have it like around me. So
Just like just round.
yeah, just wrap it
Just
around like a blanket. But continuing with the webhead, staying in the Spider-Man web of news that we have today, um, the remastered version of Sony's Spider-Man for PlayStation is finally coming to PS5 by itself. Up until now, you could not purchase the remastered edition without it including Miles Morales, and I believe it was more money. It wasn't like the regular price. Um,
yeah, but it makes sense though.
yeah, so I can't find any, and I'm reading this
Yeah,
off
but
of
didn't,
Kotaku
if
right
you
now.
didn't, honestly, this shouldn't be any good news because if you didn't buy it with Miles Morales, you're racist. That's it.
I
And
mean,
that's it.
or it
That's
was
it.
too expensive for you at the time. So
Oh no, it's either it's too expensive or you were like, I'm not getting it because of Miles is next. I'm like, you're just
oh
racist.
yeah, I mean if you're doing that, then yes. But
Yeah. But if you couldn't
so
afford it, I allow that.
Originally, I think it was like the $70 or $80 price tag, and now it's
Oh,
coming
question: Is that physical copy? Because I'm sure you could just when it
either
comes to
or.
the digital,
It's
huh?
either or.
Oh, because then the digital you could have just you couldn't get it separately.
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's
When you
weird.
bought it, it came with both, so it's like it was a
Oh,
package
I'm
deal.
here thinking. Oh,
No,
well, for me, because I had the PS4, obviously, right at the time.
yeah.
Then I got. Oh no, because I actually got the PS4 version. Now that I'm thinking about it, so yeah,
And
that's weird.
actually,
That's
it
very
wasn't
weird.
even like you got to remember. It wasn't like Spider-Man plus Spider-Man is Miles Morales. It was the Miles Morales like Ultimate Edition, in which you also
Mm,
got the um the
got it.
remastered
Got it. Got
Spider-Man game.
it. Okay.
So now it's finally separate where you can get it on your own. Like let's say you already had Miles Morales and you want to get the regular remaster.
And it's
So
true. It plays as its own game, so it's not like you're spoiling
yeah,
anything. Well, if you played Spider Man and then you were like, "Oh, that's how he got his powers," and it's like,
yeah.
well, you don't see how he get his powers. But anyway,
So now you can actually purchase it for $50, or if you already had the PS4 version, you can upgrade it for $10. So
mm,
that's not bad at all.
okay.
Okay, so now done with Marvel's Webhead, we're gonna continue on into video game stuff. Now this is kind of like a new type of topic. We don't typically cover flops, unless it like really like is a huge flop like within video games or movies. But this was pretty big to the point where if you are an Xbox player,
Shooter
fan,
by
anything, it's a big deal. We had so the game that I'm going to be talking about is Redfall. Redfall had
Yeah,
been
I'm looking it
talked
up right
about
now.
for years at this point. It was supposed to be Xbox's next like huge property. It was a vampire game, player versus vampire. It was a first person shooter and all that. Um, but unfortunately, it came out and rocked the video game world with how bad it was. So because Xbox and Phil Spencer had been touting this so long as like, the next killer app,
Mm-hmm.
now you have all these eyes on it where it's a huge deal. So also, little plug, this actually what I'm about to talk about right now with Phil Spencer comes from an interview that he did with Kind of Funny Xcast. Uh, kind of Funny, I actually is like one of my favorite podcasts, and I've been listening to them for years at this point, back before they were this famous. So I was, super cool back then. But anyway, coming from an interview that Phil Spencer did with Kind of Funny Xcast, he said that he's actually obsessed with himself and he takes full responsibility for launching a game that needed to be great. So he's also acknowledging the disappointment that comes from a $70 game, because remember, that's the new price of games. $70 games arriving in the condition that Redfall had. So we're talking about a flop the same way of like Mass Effect Andromeda, where this game is barely playable, or Cyberpunk, where this game is barely playable on the
On the
platform
console.
that it was released on. So it was for Xbox Series X, and IGN gave it a 4, which is like
Yeah, looking at the Metacritics, it looks like it's just like in it's mid.
it's really like for something to get under a 6, it's like pretty rare, I feel. And when you get a 4, it's like that means this game was probably like halfway done, which is terrible to hear. So not only is it bad, it's a bad time across the board, but it's plagued with bland missions, boneheaded enemies, and repeated technical problems. It just simply wasn't ready for daylight in this state. I've heard about game crashing bugs. I've heard about um, like cutscenes that just weren't included in the game, but it seemed like that was like the moments for them. Things like enemies, like the AI just bugging out and they're just like not even coming near you. They're it's game breaking sequences basically.
Mm.
So it's just a bad time, and unfortunately, this was something that came at a also bad time for Xbox because they've been having this kind of lull with with exclusives. You know, they've been doing really well with Games Pass and providing some really cool experiences with other games, but Xbox has been in a lull with, you know, reputable exclusives, I should
Yeah.
say. And this is just another kind of like notch in the belt here of like Xbox, you know, hitting the
Yeah,
fan. Like
it's
this is bad.
crazy. For growing up, I grew up on high school, college, grew up on 360. They won the generation, especially when it came to multiplayer. But then it's like they were trying to be all cool about it, like, yo, it's not all about exclusives. But I like now exclusives are coming back when it comes to consoles. Nintendo's always done great with that. PlayStation stuck with exclusives and they never wavered. And again, now that you're trying to do that again, I will beat beat a dead horse with it. If that's not even the phrasing, but Scalebound would have been the thing. That game was beautiful. And for those who don't know, and I see my cousins in this chat, if he's listening, Scalebound would have been the perfect game because we bought an Xbox One just for that game. If again, for those who don't know, it's like being Khaleesi and riding a dragon, and a dragon could fight with you against these dumb knights. That was badass. But you know what happened? They were just like, "Nah, we don't want this anymore. We're gonna focus on a pirate game that's multiplayer. And it's not like a pirate game that's like serious. It's like it's supposed to be more inclusive with families and
Mm-hmm.
friends and kids." I'm like, "But where's my dragon?" And we didn't get it. So I wasted money on a 360 that I barely played. I think I played Halo 5 and didn't care for Halo 5 and
Rough.
was like, "All right, fine, I'm okay, peace." So yeah, speaking of flops,
So,
they got a lot of acquisitions of stuff. They need to get their poops together.
and what sucks is this actually comes from Arcane Austin, right? They made Deathloop and Dishonored. Like you're talking about
Yeah, yeah,
heavy
yeah,
hitters here.
yeah. This on, yeah, exactly, exactly.
And what bothers me even more is one of the massive issues that this game has is that they promised it was going to be 60 FPS, 60 frames per second, but then they shipped it at 30. So this game,
But that makes me question. It's like, okay, it's like in movie theaters or any process of like sending up your product to the higher echelon to review these things. When you do this, why would you look at this and say this is fine and close the book and ship it out? Why not delay it?
here's this is what brings me to my next point. Phil Spencer said the top guy, there's no one above him.
Yeah, exactly.
If you would have just delayed it 3 months, the core creative of the game would have delivered on something that was different to what it was. If you're telling me that 3 months could have fixed some of the massive issues, like at least within storytelling of the game, you know, nowadays there's day one patches. It's a thing. If you don't have an internet connection, it really sucks that it's a thing. But when you pop in a big game, you're kind of, you know, you gotta wait an hour to play it because of the patches that need to be installed. They're
Yeah,
working on a patch to fix the 60 frames per second. I can already tell that's going to go terribly. Um, and they have to continue to work at it to fix all these other things. And it's something that Phil Spencer and Arcane has promised that they would continue to do since it is a $70 game. They're going to put money behind it, kind of like Sea of Thieves, in order to bolster that community and get the game working to where they want it to be. But this kind of thing bothers me so much because 3 months is absolutely nothing to wait for a delay in order to at least get it to where people won't be as mad, you know, and maybe like you got to fix like
yeah,
bugs and stuff, and maybe your biggest problem is the frame rate. Like that's not a great
yeah,
thing to have as a problem, but if you could deliver a game that's more fleshed out and better AI, better characters, better story, all right, forgive the frame rate. But if you're having all these issues and you're saying 3 months, dude, it's not like a cyberpunk story where it was delayed like 3 years consistently
yeah,
and then it finally came out and it was still terrible.
yeah.
Like this is something where it was very doable in my eyes. Like, there's no reason why you couldn't have delayed this 3 months. If you knew
Facts.
that these were the obstacles that you were facing, 3 months, you know, could have done a lot in terms of like goodwill with your customers. So it's rough. It's a really rough thing to do. Apparently, they have a timeline and they're committed to getting it done. Like I said, like having that commitment to getting the game where they want it to be.
Yeah, there's that. Even if they get it all fixed, their rating is their rating. The only thing they can get is one of those like, and I'm only strictly talking about IGN, where IGN does
Yeah,
like 2 months later playing this game again. See how it is from
yeah.
when it comes,
After
and they do a
after like whatever big patch comes, because I
yeah.
the only one that I can even think of having like a significant difference was No Man's Sky. Vanilla No
But
Man's.
No Man's Sky still it was disappointing at first, but still good because it did deliver on some things.
Yeah,
But look, mind you, I spent 90 hours on that game, and I've only been to like 5 planets,
I also
and I
like.
didn't do a lot.
I didn't mind the vanilla version of the game. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
I also didn't care. Like, I was playing it as a single person experience. I didn't care that like the multiplayer thing wasn't really hashed out. Like,
Yeah, same because I knew it was coming too. I knew it was
yeah,
coming. I was like, I'd rather build the world that I'm building before I get to do all that stuff.
yeah. So I was fine going to different planets and mining. Like I was cool with that
Yeah,
and just building up my ship whenever I could. So
yeah.
I don't understand that issue with that game, but I get it. Now it's a whole different game. Like from what I've seen, it's like
Mhm.
it's a
But and
freaking
that's the
180.
thing yeah, it's so upsetting too because time. I used to have again I put 90 hours into that game. I there were times so there was one time I went to go back to the game. My file was gone or erased. I don't know how.
Yeah,
And then I was like, oh great, I get to start over with this new patch. I've tried it again, but it's just like it's hard to stay with that one game, especially when again for those listening, I don't play a lot of games like that. Um, I would love to not be working where I work now and then just sit home and finally get on that and build and just get to a point and actually do Animal Crossing. But that's a whole different story. I'm going off on a tangent.
yeah,
But I hear you, dude. It's
yeah,
crazy when it comes to these flops. They need to get their act together on this.
yeah. They do. And the next thing that I'm going to talk about is like in direct contrast to this, Jedi Survivor. Right, Jedi Survivor. They stumbled a little bit coming out the gate, but nothing that they can't fix with patches. Um,
Specifically with PC.
yeah, with PC, that's been the major thing. Consoles haven't had as rough as they haven't had it that bad. So with Jedi Survivor, what I thought was super cool is that you can purposely sequence break the story, so you can do things out of order and mess up like the storyline if you felt like it.
Mm,
Most players aren't gonna come across this stuff. It's like if you're really trying to like I don't know skip certain sections of the game and just go to like a different areas, you can. There is that kind of openness to this game, but the game has a built-in function that it'll give you a message saying, "Hey, you're about to go out of order in the story. Do you want to do this?" On top of
mm.
that, it has a failsafe where they will say it'll auto save right before then. So if you do it and you mess up and you don't want to, you can go back.
It's like you went to fight the wrong person. You need to go back. Like
So
I'm not far into the game, but let's say like Vader's there and they're like, yeah, you can't fight this person yet. Do you want to go back?
like it's just fun, I guess, because it's literally like a little pop-up window that comes up and it's like, hey, um you're about to sequence break, but we're gonna give you this thing so you don't mess up your save file, because you never know when you do these things, you are tampering with the code of the game. um some games really don't allow you to sequence break, and if you do, it's kind of like you're glitching through whatever barriers they have, and it could corrupt your files. And then if that happens, you got to restart the game like completely.
Facts.
So the fact that they're doing this and giving you a failsafe and allowing you to still break the game if you felt like it, I thought that was super cool, very clever.
That's kind of cool, yeah.
If there are some people, especially now, when you're talking about either speed running or like limit testers, there are gamers that go out there and literally just try and break games in any way that they can.
Breath of the Wild, like when the guy just went to the end of the game and
Yeah,
just beat it.
like they their whole shtick is literally breaking games, whether that means like collision detection or sequence breaking in the story or just like speed running tactics. That's their thing. They like to do that. They like to play around in this playground. So it's fun to see that some developers are taking that like into consideration when building out these games and being like, hey, you can do this, but you can mess things up. So we're gonna help you out a little bit here. So I thought that was a fun little tidbit. We've been
That's
talking
cool.
about Jedi Survivor for a while. I have to wait till next week to get the game, so I this is just helping me cope with not having it
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. I'll talk about it in the wrap just to boost your excitement.
So moving on from this, another piece of gaming news that is blew my mind when I read it today. Game Freak, the studio best known for Pokemon, is partnering with Private Division and making their first AAA action adventure game.
I'm with it.
So, for all those that don't know, a AAA action adventure game is Star Wars Jedi Survivor. A
Wait, I forget what's the third. Is action adventure, and what's the other one?
what do you mean?
What's the other A? It's triple A, right?
Well, AAA
Is that what?
is just like the standing of like how high it is. AAA is typically like
Oh,
the
I just thought
biggest.
it was action adventure, and then there's another
No,
A.
no, no, no,
I'm
no, no.
like,
It's not like the genre. No, no, no. So AAA. So there's double A, AAA, right?
okay,
So
batteries. Got
yes.
it.
So AAA games are these huge experiences. Your Hogwarts Legacies, your
Got it.
Ghost of Tsushima's, your Spider
Got it. Got
Mans,
it.
like these massively polished games. They typically are the ones that are, it's the water cooler talk games. So your AAA games are also made by studios that you know about. Um, you know, The Witcher, CD Project Red, back
Yeah.
before they sullied themselves with Cyberpunk. You know, things of that nature. So Game Freak going into this AAA action and adventure space, it blows my mind because we've only seen them do Pokemon stuff, and they released one piece of concept art, and it looks freaking beautiful.
I want to say I saw it. Let me see.
So the project is called Project Bloom. It's it's like
Oh, I've seen this.
it's
Yeah, I saw the picture
incredibly
for it.
atmospheric. The I'm gonna try and describe this concept art. It looks like it's following a samurai, like a lone samurai, similar like Ghost of Tsushima. He's in this massive forest, very fantastical. Um, Definitely, it looks like it might be combining like Eastern mythology with maybe some like fantasy elements here.
Yeah.
It's a whole new IP, different tone from their original works. Definitely
It kind of
different from
has this
Pokemon.
like, yeah. If you guys ever look it up, it has this yellowish hue to it. Again, it looks like a samurai with the hat. It looks very like futuristic in a sense. Like it kind of has the same aesthetics, kind of like Horizon in a sense. Like
Hmm.
when it comes to like these
Yes.
angular looks in this clothing. Um, Kind of like, well, yeah, it is killed like Guerrilla Games, but
Yes.
again, it's a concept art, so hopefully, and look, if it's not gonna make it, just delay it. I'd rather it be delayed than like seeing this hypes me up as well because I saw it and I was like, oh, this is really dope, but we're not getting anything else from this
Hmm.
information. But give me what I want. That's
Yeah.
what I want.
Literally, it's just that's all we
Don't
have
fail
right
me.
now. That's all we have right now. It's them partnering up with Private Division. It's the first Western studio that they've ever partnered up with. We don't know what um, systems or anything this is for yet. While Game Freak is the studio behind Pokemon, the Pokemon Company is the one that like publishes the games under Nintendo, I
Yeah,
believe, and that's their whole thing. Their company is the Pokemon Company, but Game Freak is technically just a independent studio that can still
yeah.
work
It
on
kind
other
of
stuff.
reminds me like you can explain this as like Bungie was always under
Yeah.
Xbox,
Yep.
Microsoft, but then now Bungie has is able to do their own thing,
Hmm.
they can still do their own
So
thing.
yeah, whereas like the Pokemon Company is a first party studio under Nintendo. Nintendo does own majority of them, majority of their
IP.
stakeholders or whatever.
Ah, yes.
They own the company. They own Pokemon Company, and they are just the Pokemon machine. They're the ones that pump out everything. Game Freak, the studio that actually creates the games, is not a first party studio. It is their own studio. They can work on other IPs. So
Which is wild because I don't think they've worked on anything else. Or am I wrong?
so they have, but not anything like
Like
we
that
care or
grand.
know about. Like their last big one was I think in the '90s, and it wasn't even a big game. So
Mm,
there's other projects that they've definitely had, but none that even move the needle. Definitely not when compared to Pokemon. Um,
mm.
but yeah,
Hopefully, this is it.
this is their next foray into video games, and it
Yeah.
looks pretty cool, man. Go check out the concept art whenever you can. Um, the last bit of news, so everyone is aware. Sticking with the swordsman and these massive environments, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom comes out May 12th. This week, people. It's almost here.
That's in 3 days.
It's almost here. What is that, Friday, right?
No. I'm gonna have it
Saturday?
and be playing Jedi.
Yeah, I mean it's again it's gonna be one that I have to wait on. Yeah, it's Friday. It drops Friday.
Yeah, 3 days.
It's one that I'm gonna have to wait till next week to get, but I'm definitely getting it. I've been super hyped for this game, but market calendars, be ready to go buy it, whether or do the pre-order thing and download it. I need a physical copy for this game, so I'll go into the store. Maybe I'll still keep up my luck with getting the last copy in the store for. You remember like the last couple games that I've bought, it's been like
Yeah,
literally the last
they were
copy in
always
the
the
store.
last one.
So hopefully I'll still be able to grab it. But okay, that wraps up the news docket. We're gonna dive into a quick weekly wrap here. So Jay, what have you been watching, reading, or
Speaking of
playing?
wrapping it up, um, let's see. Watching. So I watched Guardians. That's again. It was good. It hit the ground running. It's like if you look at like if I look at another trilogy, like one of and for what everyone will say, the most popular trilogy is the Captain America trilogy within the MCU. Um, I still like the first one more than two or three. Speaking of Guardians, like I as a film, I always thought Guardians was better than Avengers one. Uh, and like when I watch it on like when it comes up on TV, like on FX or whatever, like I would sit there and watch wherever it is in the movie in the movie, I will watch it to the end because that's how much I like it. Especially the ending, the song Black Tears plays all the time. It's kind of like the Portals in Endgame. It's like
Mm.
you know the song when you hear it. Um, and I remember, and I'm gonna curse this one time because it was in the movie, but when he grabs the Power Stone, and then Ronan is like, "How can you be like? How can you do this?" And he's like, "You said it yourself, bitch. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy." And I was like, "Ah!" Like I know that line. It's so good. But this one, it didn't hype me up because I don't know of again if it's because there are movies that still hype me up to this day. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
because I'm getting older. It's probably just part of the movie fatigue. Like I was hyped for Woman King. I was hyped for the uh, the Northman. Like there are a lot of movies that I'm still hyped for. This one I was like, oh, this is just the end. This is just the
Yeah.
trilogy that's ending. Not saying it's a bad movie. I just was like, okay, cool, another Marvel movie. I like this one. Again, the weakness to the reason it's lost some points for me is because the music that I was waiting for wasn't playing
Mm-hmm.
really. Um, a lot of growth with a lot of the characters. I'm not going to get into it because you have to. It'd be a spoiler in a sense. Um, but yeah, Groot was great. Some sequences were great. My friend was mentioning he was curious to one. He was wondering if they shot it in IMAX because he's a cinematographer, so he noticed the lens in the movies were a little rounded.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the sequence, I love the way the camera was used in this one. I think is a different cinematographer compared to the last two. But that I'm just getting into the science of film at this point. I'm not even getting into story. Again, story was great. It was not bad.
Hmm.
But yeah, what else? Watching my Samurai Jacks. I didn't watch Gargoyles. What else did I watch? Watching. Ooh, second season of Ranking of Kings is out, so I saw the first two
Mm,
episodes.
nice.
Oh man, it's still like it's kiddie in the beginning before it gets to the real stuff with the action and the stuff, but it's pretty dope to see.
I never finished the first season. I need to go back. I think I made it like halfway.
Dude, even the soundtrack to the opening is of the second half of this season is really good. I still listen to it as part of my writing process. It's so good. It kind of sequences the latter half of the season. Like I can't even tell you because like he does some epic stuff when he's fighting, but then it goes visually. It does a good job. The animation does a good job. But watching the second season of that, reading right now, I'm not reading a lot. I'm trying to get through a nice bulk of volume one of Magic Order so I can talk about it. But that's by Mark Miller, another one. And I'm just reading. I just started reading a book called. It's really dope. The artist that I worked with, his name is Brian. I don't want to butcher his name. Um, he's from the Eastern Hemisphere. I forget. Brian Andan. I could be mispronouncing it. I will put his info in the podcast, the stuff where things are casted, so you can follow him. He did a variant cover for My Brother Teddy, the one with the kid on top of Teddy. You know that one. He did that one. So it's called Grammaton Punch. It sounds dope. So I read the first issue. It's about a kid. It opens up a kid. He's like, I was born on the eclipse, and for some reason I kept getting sick. I noticed that there was this one-eyed ghost that kept sapping away at my energy, and because of that, he kept getting sick. He kept getting sick. Doctors couldn't tell you what was going on, but then they did an X-ray. They found out there was something behind his eyes, and they were like, "That's probably what it is." So they were like, "Here's some glasses." Because that'll probably help you with your sight or something like that. Basically, he can see ghosts. So I thought that was cool
Mm,
already. And then one time he got sapped so much that his hair turned white, and he was like a kid. He was like 5, 7 years old, so he had white hair because he was being sapped of his like life force. So at one point he got so upset as a kid, he just punched the ghost. He like grabbed the ghost and he was like, "Oh, I can touch the ghost." And he punched the ghost. So he kept describing it like every time he punched the ghost, uh, the longer it took for it to come back. So that same ghost kept coming back to him.
mm,
So like basically in this world, ghosts sap people of their energy. So they're either angry or they're really sad or drained of their life or just they're depressed or they're just super tired at random moments. So every time he punched this ghost, he was getting stronger, as you can see. But it was like he's like, yeah. Next thing I noticed, it was like weeks, then it was days, or it was like days, weeks, and it's been months. So it's pretty dope. It's written by an author by the name of Miles Gunther. It's a Comixology original. So if you have, for those listening, if you have a Comixology account, definitely get your copy. It's a really good read. I'm like halfway through issue two. There's total of 3 issues out now.
mm. Are they regular
Um,
length or are they like bigger
25
issues?
pages so around, yeah, the
Okay.
average comic book length. Um, yeah, so far it seems pretty dope. It's dope. And then he like it's just like he's still a little kid. The cover looks like he's a grown man. So I don't
Hmm.
know if it was just like a up close version of the kid. Um, but yeah, I want to get through that and then get to Magic Order. Um, and then playing Jedi. Oh my god, it's so fun. It's so fun. When I first got it, Gabby was just like, "I've never seen you cheese so hard for this game." I'm like, "Yeah, because it's Fallen Order. I haven't played this since the first one." And then she's like, "I was like, yeah, the last time I cheesed this hard is when you got me a Nintendo Switch." It's like you never smile like that with me. But I'm like, but it's Star Wars, and then you get to fight like a Jedi. Like you can't imagine
You
Like,
can't
just give me a
compare
real saber.
like you. It's just
Yeah,
it's impossible.
real life. You can't compare real life to just being a Jedi and just traversing the cosmos. But yeah, dude, it's fun. Like I spent, I'm playing. So there's four tiers because there's whatever story, easy mode.
Hmm.
Grandmaster is the last one. I'm playing the one before that, which is just Master. So
Okay.
that's above because I think the in the first game it was only three. I believe it was
Well, they always
Padawan.
have like Padawan, Jedi Knight, and Master, right?
No, because Grandmaster was the last one. There was no
Oh,
Master in the first one. It was like Jedi Knight and then Grandmaster.
okay.
This one has Jedi Knight, Master, and then Grandmaster. So I'm
Hmm.
playing on Master. Um, Playing that, I was just what I love is that you have all your move sets. It doesn't make sense for you not to have your move sets because
Hmm.
it would be kind of dumb. You have all your sabers, like you can do all three sets. So you have single, double, and then dual wield. Um, you got your basic push and pull. Like he's not relearning all those
Hmm.
things. So I'm sure you saw online of the popular like the Rancor.
Yeah.
I don't know if you. So I got to that point. It's early on in the game, so it's not a spoiler. It's like a side mission. I get down there and I keep dying because first of all, it has when the creatures turn red, it's like their move that you can't block.
Yeah.
So he has one of those when he swipes you. It's a one hit kill, so you can't escape that. And I keep dodging, but I'm like, what? But the thing is, the mistake I was doing is I kept jumping away. So I found myself because I jump away,
Mm,
he would miss.
yeah.
So every time I jump, it's like his swipes. He has this reach where he can grab you.
Hmm.
So then, like yesterday, I was playing and I was like, all right, I'm gonna just do it one more time before I leave the planet. And I'm like, out of pettiness, I'm gonna stay here. Because I remember I spent an hour, I kept dying. And I was like, bro. And I wasn't blocking either because I was like, wait, it's a big monster. How can you block it? But I think
Hmm.
you can. It just takes your stamina down. So I was like, let me just utilize all those tools. I was like, let me block and use my evade. And I finally beat him. It's because I wasn't using those tools
Yeah.
because I figured I need to hop away. But every time I hopped away, he was able to grab me. Um, but dude, I was just like, and that's what like that was my hyperbolic time chamber because I kept staying there. So when I got out, I was blocking everything, blocking stormtroopers, blocking all these things. Minor spoiler, but it's not a spoiler. It's just like something that it's a feel good thing. Clone Wars, with the droids. So they're in this one because they're repurposed, but to
Mm,
hear them speak is great. They're like,
nice.
"Oh no, he's like because I would kill one of them. He's like, "Oh no, I'm alone." It's so funny. They have all these random things, but I find it odd the stormtroopers talk similarly. Or I don't know if
Hmm.
they copied and paste the same mannerisms as they do or
Yeah.
their voice. Because when I would kill one of the stormtroopers, they're like, "Oh no, I'm alone. Leave me alone." Like they
Yeah.
get super scared. But I think because in this world, Jedi's are like all powerful. Like you
Yeah.
would want like the only like Jedi that in that empire is Vader and the Inquisitors.
Hmm.
Like they're already scary. So if you're facing off against a Jedi, it's like, oh no, I need to run away. But they will still fight you. But I just love the droids. I miss listening to the droids speak. Like I remember in Clone Wars when they would just say the randomest things. Like they're just chilling at the post, and you can hear them from a distance. So you can hear their conversations. It's just so dumb. And that's one of the things I love about this game. But yeah,
That's not something
um,
I would have expected, but that's great because I love
yeah,
hearing. When they had the appearance in the Mandalorian this past season, they did the same thing. They said like stupid stuff once in a while, so it's
yeah,
fun like hearing from the
yeah,
droids.
yeah. But yeah, that was my weekly rant.
Okay. Then for me, watching, I don't even remember if I nodded to this when we were talking about Indiana Jones, but I saw a marathon on the Paramount channel. I went to my parents' house this past weekend and they just had it on, and they had the original three running. Like,
I think you did not to that, yes, but yeah, that's dope.
yeah,
Now
they
that I
had
know,
the original three Indiana Jones, and I was like, I caught um, Temple of Doom was the first one that I caught from the beginning. Watched all of that. Then they had the Last Crusades. I saw that in bits because then I was like starting to move around. And then not Temple of Doom. Then Raiders of the Lost Ark came on, and I like was able to watch it in bits and pieces. But it's like I really sat down and watched Temple of Doom, and I was like, they just don't make movies like this anymore. And I hate hearing that phrase too because it's like, they can if they want to, or whatever. But it's like the practicality in that movie, what they use to their advantage instead of CGI, like all the practical effects. There's animals in there, like everything from elephants to like they have this pit filled with insects. Like
Snakes. Oh,
no, it was like just straight up insects, and it
mm,
was really creepy because they had like these exotic ones, and you saw them like going all up on people and stuff. On top of like they had the snakes, they had elephants. It was, and they were real animals. You know, they did such a good job at incorporating these things, and you just can't do, in my mind, you can't do better than practical
then
effects.
yeah, then practical. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like whenever, like for example, I remember the last week I said I saw Ghosted on Apple TV,
Yeah.
and and it's in the trailer too. Is there's a scene where there's bugs in the room,
Hmm.
and like they're in the lair of the evil guy, and then there's just like bugs in the room. I'm sure that's all CGI. Like it
Yeah.
would have been great to have. Again, you can't tell a bug what to do, so you got to CGI it. But depending, like again, you said a pit of insects. You don't need to CGI that. Just
Yeah.
get
Just
it. And I
put
don't
the
know
actor in a
because
pit.
yeah, because I'm like sure you. I'm sure you're gonna spend mad money on one guy to just do a CGI when you can just hire a zoo that or some place that has these, I guess it sounds messed up to say, but these expendable insects,
Yeah.
and just put them in this pit. And it's not like you're setting them on fire, you're just putting him in there, and then just put a guy from Fear Factor in there and he's fine. Like
Yeah.
that's all you need.
Yeah, and it wasn't
And
anything like they didn't set these bugs on fire or anything like that. They just
mhm,
walked through a room full of bugs,
yeah,
and it's just it blows my mind. Even the stuff with like I don't know, like the booby trap stuff in the tomb and all that. Like it's all real. Like clearly,
yeah,
they're not real knives coming out, so it's
they're
not gonna
not,
like
yeah, exactly.
impale someone. But all of that stuff was real, actually made
It's just
practical effects. And it goes so it it goes so long in like
yeah,
making you be immersed in that world. And this is not a movie I've seen. I don't even know. I
like
mean, it might have been like 10, 15 years since I've seen
yeah.
the
It's been a
original
long
Indiana
time for me.
Jones.
Now that you told me it's there, I'm gonna watch it.
So just watching them, it was like it was the channel. So I don't know if it's on the streaming. Um,
It was a channel. I'll
so
find it somehow.
yeah, just watching them and like just being in awe of it, and like I also think actors had like more to do in like the older movies. Like they had to carry more weight. Um, and someone with the charisma of Harrison Ford is just not existent in our current landscape. Like he not only is
Yeah,
he
it's kind of like dying out,
yeah, not
like
only
slowly.
was he like
Or-
this silver fox, teacher at the university, but then he was like this kind of grizzled, sarcastic, you know, action lead. And it was just such a cool dichotomy of character, and somebody like Harrison Ford really carrying the character of Indiana Jones and doing what he had to do. And the best part of it is like it wasn't in a sleazy way, like old school James Bond where he was just like sleeping with every woman that came by. It was really like he was just too cool for school and didn't even want to deal with women, and like he was just like saving these people out of the goodness of his heart, and like trying to figure things out just because it was like the history behind it. And it those movies were just so
I
good.
just want to
And
read this thing from Voodoo. It's like, from legendary filmmakers Steven Spielberg and George Lucas comes one of the greatest movie franchises of all time, spanning the globe of death-defying archaeological. Like what? That sounds really corny, but it's so dope. If adventure has a name, it must be Indiana Jones. Like
like
that's so perfect. It
man,
hits.
I like there is a place for CGI in movies today. There is. Where you're talking about these huge environments, stuff like Avatar, you just literally you can't go to space and film. So I get it. But some like this grounded movie with a handful of like actors, like to me it held my attention, and I was so like in awe of this movie as it was happening to me. And the three of them, all three of them, like whenever I sat down to watch them, I was just like, dude, this is such a good film. Like, forget about everything else, the acting, the storytelling. Like, yeah, some of it was a little corny, and nostalgia plays into it, but they were so good.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, and I have to rewatch these movies again. The Godfather trilogy. I remember
Yeah,
watching it in high school. It was when they were all on Netflix. I remember saying, "Wow, Godfather One is great, but Godfather Two blew my mind. Blew my mind."
like there's and and I could see why some directors and actors like to return to that kind of storytelling, because it really does put all the emphasis on the actor. Like, you cannot go anywhere. There's nowhere for you to hide. Like, you need to really have the ability to portray these characters and tell a story with just you.
Mhm.
I was looking at Casino with Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, right? Those kinds of movies that are extremely grounded and just tell a random story, and you are just engrossed in it. You know, I really feel like with technology and stuff like that, it's just not as common, these days. And to be honest, even the grounded stuff, it has to be. I don't know, like there's just like wash over the grounded stuff nowadays, where like it has to be bigger, it has to be
Yeah.
over the top. Like there's nothing where it's just an action adventure movie, a plain action adventure movie. I cannot remember the last time I've seen something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Like if you look at just superhero movies, I think one of the last superhero movies to do this was like phase one of MCU. You got the Chronicle, like that to me was
mm-hmm,
when we're looking at just superhero movies, that like that sheen is not painted with Hollywood. Now it's like past phase one of,
yeah,
and I'm using that time as a I'm using phase one as a time an anchor, but
yeah,
past phase one is just painted with this Hollywood sheen
yeah.
of superhero uh, of Hollywood sheen. But yeah,
So
it's wild.
so that was my big thing. What I watched. I mean, I've also been watching SpongeBob in the background. Um, I'm still finishing up that '70s show. I haven't finished it yet. But I've jumped back on to my pirate ship, and
Freaking finally.
I continued the journey of One Piece. And you know what? I even surprised myself. I didn't even realize how far I am. I'm in like the mid 700s.
Yeah, I remember you told me you're in Dressrosa.
I'm at the end now. So he just
Yeah,
went.
I remember you telling me this. I'm like, bro, you just need to get past that and then take a break. But if
So
you're gonna jump back in, you need to
I
commit, bro.
I didn't even realize that I was that close. These fights always take forever, but I didn't even realize where I was like in that fight,
Mm.
because it took a really long time. Like,
Yeah, it's one of those things I always tell. I know if I'm talking to people that are like kind of getting into One Piece or like in like kind of in there, it's like you already know the pattern. You
yeah,
go with like you got the Straw Hats doing their fights, then you got Sanji, Zoro, then Luffy. So
yeah.
once these, you can tell where you are when those battles have, or yeah, those fights have been done.
And it's weird because Dressrosa. This is, I guess, up until this point, this arc is the longest one. Like, by far, it is
And
super
you know
long.
that's going to be the second longest, actually,
Yeah, like so far, where I'm at, it's the longest one. We haven't seen half the crew in like
because
a
they
hundred
disappeared or they
episodes.
left.
Yeah, like Chopper, Sanji. Oh no, is Sanji around?
No, no, it's Chopper,
Yeah,
Sanji,
it's Chopper, Sanji, Brook, and
Robin,
no, Robin's
and
around.
Frankie.
Robin, Frankie, and Nami are around in Dressrosa.
Wait, who am I thinking about? Are they still?
So Robin is with. Oh no, is not. I don't think Nami is. Robin is. Usopp is. Frankie is.
Yes, you're right. Why am I bugging? You're right. Usopp is there. So
So
it's Sanji, Brooke,
Chopper and Nami.
and Nami.
Yeah, they're just gone. Half the crew you haven't seen, but you've got
It
all
was
these
it was
other
yeah, because all the
characters.
weak characters except well, quote unquote weak characters with Sanji
Yeah.
leading them out.
You've seen all these other side characters. There's been like 7 stories in this one thing. Like when I got back to where I was, I went like 2 episodes back so I can kind of get like refreshed and like watch the recaps and all that. And I was like, okay, cool. I remember this. I remember this. And I was like, oh my god, this is still going on. Like we had so much happen, and now the fight is still not done. Like, and I felt it. Now this is how I know I'm a seasoned One Piece like vet. Like when he finally goes when he goes Gear 3, and I was like, oh snap. And then it was like the final blow, and he supposedly killed Doflamingo. I was like, nah, this wasn't hyped enough. Like this wasn't like watching it, I was like, no, this isn't it. Like this can't be it. And then out of nowhere, it's like, oh no, he's still alive, and Luffy has to cool down for 10 minutes, and now that's been another 10 episodes.
I was. You meant sorry. Not. I'm. Not, I didn't want to correct you, but I didn't know what part you were in. You said Gear 3. You meant
Yeah,
Gear 4th.
no, I
Yeah,
meant
yeah,
Gear
yeah.
3. Oh no,
What did he
Gear
do?
4, Gear 4. You're right. You know, no,
Yeah,
you're right.
because
You're
he
right.
said he
You're
took
right.
10 minutes. He had took
Yeah,
a
yeah,
ten
yeah.
minute break.
No, you're right. It's Gear.
Yeah.
It's Gear 4. So
Yeah.
the phenomenal bounce man. Um. So
And you're watching it in English, right?
yeah. So
Yeah. It's just that when he says Gear 4, it's just such a. It's cringe at this point.
well, they say like
Like that's just a me thing.
I don't like how they say fourth. They say fourth gear, and then they like say whatever it's called, and I'm like, eh. But I like it when it's Gear 4. Um,
Yeah, because in Japanese, that's how like
yeah.
when the voice actor said, even the way it sounds, because when he says it, there's this like kabuki
Hmm.
sound effect in the background, and it just sounds weird. And because I've seen the comparisons, like I love the voice actor because
Yeah.
she's been doing it for so long, and that's the one I remember growing up. But it's just like I said, I was telling not to like get into your rap, but I remember one of my friends telling me like, "How you watch this dub?" And I'm like, "Bro, there's a nostalgia with it,
Yeah.
and I can't listen to anyone past." Chopper. Like I know what
Mm.
Chopper's English voice acts on.
Hmm.
Any of the Straw members that came after that, I'm like, and then I've only
No,
heard them in the movies.
really, not even
Yeah,
Frankie's.
like I've heard Frankie's, but he
Okay.
was in Strong World. He was in the 10th movie, and I've heard that
Oh,
voice.
okay.
So then I'm like, I've heard it, but I'm like, he's still the Japanese version to me.
So,
So
so I'm still there. I'm in the part like I think he has 1 more minute to go on his cooldown.
after like 20
Yeah,
episodes,
man, it was killing me. I was like, damn, this is so much. And um, I'm gonna just wrap it up here. For playing, I've
yeah,
been playing Fortnite. I haven't really been playing anything else. But just to finish off this little One Piece thing, it's like I've come to appreciate this show so much. Not only because I've been watching it for probably half my life, but um, like they do like the storytelling in One Piece is so phenomenal. I've never met another show that like gets me frustrated, like makes me laugh,
it gets you through all your emotions, and you can't say no other show does that
dude.
or other thing does that.
And they're constantly doing it. It's not like, oh, this one thing was really cool. No, it's every arc. It brings me through every emotion, and just when I think it can't be better, it is. And on top of that, like while watching, Dressrosa and Doflamingo and all that, Law's origin story literally made me cry. Um,
Bro,
and then
don't
even
get me started.
even Doflamingo's origin, like his villain origin story, it's really sad, and like you kind of like he's a jerk, but like you get
He's
it.
a jerk from the beginning, but you get where he's coming from. But he was such a brat at the beginning.
And then
I don't want to
like,
take up. We could definitely talk about this in the after dark, but we'll
but
go ahead.
so last piece is like to see that they showed Kuma and Doflamingo in like episode 150 or whatever it was when they got together for
Oh, like
that,
early on, yeah,
where they got
and when
together
they're
for
all the seven warlords.
yes, when they
Yeah,
showed them, like they showed their face, you saw them walking, and it's just like, oh, these two random guys, and then 600 episodes later, it's a payoff. Like it blows my mind that they're able to like hold that string for so long.
it's talking about strings. His devil fruit was the longest not named. We knew what it was,
Yeah,
but his was the longest not named in the series that we didn't know
has he even
as a
said it?
reader watcher. Yeah, by that point, it's already been said.
If he did, he only
Why
said it
were
like
you?
once, and I don't remember.
Yeah, it was already revealed, but or it was in a flashback. But
Yeah.
again, his was the longest that
Well, I
wasn't
saw when
revealed
he ate,
to the
so maybe
reader.
that's when it was when he ate the fruit in the flashback.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, just to cap that off with you,
eh,
is just
yeah, man.
there's this YouTuber that I've tried to put you on, Murphy Napier, because she got on One Piece during the pandemic, and it took
Hmm.
her a
Hmm.
year to catch up reading it. She reads it, and it's funny enough. So I'm starting to see her blurb show up on my feed, and I don't even follow her on Instagram, but she did mention something like the one thing about this series. She's like, I wish it never ends
Yeah.
because she's like, I want to see other islands. I want to meet other people. I want to see like it, like if One Piece. If I don't know what the One Piece is,
Hmm.
that is the ride for me.
Yeah.
Like I can keep going and go like if there was an eternal like if someone had the lost fruit and could perform the eternal surgery on Oda,
Hmm.
I'm all with it because he could keep writing and writing and writing and writing and still continue to make me feel this way. I would never be frustrated with the show, or
Well,
I would be frustrated with some,
you got to
but
figure it's such a massive world where it's like on this one planet, you can have
yeah,
a universe as big as Star Wars. Like the stories are
a
infinite,
hundred percent,
you
a
know?
hundred
Like
percent. And
you could
because I
do
remember when the
so
world
much.
was bigger, when I found out the world was actually bigger than Earth,
Yeah.
I think it's like 3 or 4 times the size of Earth. And it's just mind you, it's one grand line. Sorry, it's one red line and a grand line which runs perpendicular and just filled with islands. Yeah, that is as big as, in a sense, as Star Wars.
Yeah.
But yo, just to cap it off, and maybe you may agree with me with this, the one show that make you cry about a ship.
Oh my god.
Every
That
time I see that scene, I still cry.
like I literally cried for a boat. Like that episode I was and like the lead up again what they're so good at is the lead up to that where like you see that the spirit of the ship is like alive and like trying to heal itself and
in
it's like
in uh in Skypiea.
yeah and it's like it's just putting itself together to get the crew where they got to go. It's so breathtaking in such a nice way. But
Yeah,
yeah. So like we
I'm
keep
so
saying,
happy that you're back on.
we're capping it because we could keep going. But yeah, that's it for this week's episode. There will be an after dark finally after like a month, right after this. So just we'll put the starting Sue screen back on. We'll be back in like 2 minutes after we wrap up here. But if you want to join us live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you could watch us here live on twitch.tv/the average J's. We do our live recording, and then right after it, typically we go for another half hour, 40 minutes in J&J After Dark. We're unfiltered, unedited, and we break down a topic. And it's only here live on Twitch. You know, the live episode
And you go.
gets put up on YouTube, and we have a audio only podcast that goes up 2 days later after the recording. But the After Dark is only here on Twitch.tv. So as always, you can follow us on Twitter, The Average J's, Instagram, The Average J's Podcast, YouTube. It's The Average J's Podcast as well. Same thing on TikTok, and you can get all of our like up to date news typically through Instagram and Twitter. But that's where we like if we post any updates if we're gonna miss a show or anything like that. But yeah,
Nice.
please like, subscribe on everything, ring the bells, and get people to join the fleet, the Grand Fleet.
Yeah,
We're ever expanding, and I really thank you guys for the last like couple weeks. We've been seeing some pretty big upticks in our listens. So
yeah,
please just
facts, guys. Thank you.
keep spreading the good news. So as always, I am Jay Justin Ruiz,
And I'm Jay, Jeremy Francois.
and we'll be right back with J and J After Dark.